It really does open a new avenue for REITs to get involved in energy credits in a way that is REIT-friendly and allows them to monetize those and also serve their ESG goals. And we've been talking to a lot of clients who have very aggressive ESG goals, and now the Inflation Reduction Act allows them to achieve those in a way that both meets those guidelines and allows them to monetize the credits immediately.
Joining me today is Mark Van Deusen, principal with Deloitte. Mark, thanks so much for joining us again.
It's my pleasure, Matt.
Now, the Inflation Reduction Act created the ability to have transferable credits and significantly changed the rules for energy tax credits. What type of opportunities does the IRA create for REITs?
It creates a lot of opportunities. The technology of allowing REITs to transfer their credits and therefore monetize their credits allows REITs to do things such as solar projects inside of the REIT and benefit from those credits directly. Before the Inflation Reduction Act, there were limits on the ability of REITs to do that. One, there were limits on the amount of credits they can earn, and then also the credits were only helpful if you actually had a tax liability, and most REITs distribute all their income so they don't pay any tax, and as a result, REITs were doing those transactions in their taxable REIT subsidiaries, which was a little bit cumbersome and did come with a tax drag. But the Inflation Reduction Act changes all of that because now REITs can, one, they've gotten rid of all of the rules that limited the amount of credits they could earn. And then second, they've allowed REITs and other taxpayers to transfer those credits to other taxpayers, even if they don't have a tax liability, so somebody else can use them. And because of the efforts of Nareit, the transferable credits are really structured to make it REIT-friendly, because when the REIT actually gets in the payments for transferring the credit, that's not treated as gross income. So it doesn't help or hurt the compliance with the gross income tests. It's also not income that could potentially be subject to the 100% prohibited transaction tax that REITs are subject to on dealer property. So it really does open a new avenue for REITs to get involved in energy credits in a way that is REIT-friendly and allows them to monetize those and also serve their ESG goals. And we've been talking to a lot of clients who have very aggressive ESG goals, and now the Inflation Reduction Act allows them to achieve those in a way that both meets those guidelines and allows them to monetize the credits immediately. So it's pretty exciting.
Now, shifting to looking at the rising interest rate environment, what are some of the tax issues that environment causes for REITs and that they need to address?
Yeah, I think if the Inflation Reduction Act is the good news, the bad news is that the rising interest rate environment is sort of bad for real estate investors generally, and for REITs, it brings to the fore the special rules that apply to REITs for hedging. The REITs are absolutely allowed under the REIT rules to hedge their interest rate risk, and if they enter into what's called a qualified liability hedge, then the income from the hedging transaction is ignored for purposes of the income tests. It doesn't help them, it doesn't hurt them. But there are some both ministerial requirements and substantive requirements for REITs to be able to get the qualified liability hedge treatment for their derivative transactions. On the ministerial side, there's some identification requirements that you have to meet when you enter into the transactions, and even very diligent REITs will sometimes miss those requirements. The good news is that in 2016, in the PATH Act, Nareit lobbied Congress to get an exception for the identification requirements called the inadvertent error exception that applies to other taxpayers to also apply to REITs. And that wasn't terribly important until the rising interest rate environment, and now we have lots of REITs who are relying on that exception to be able to maintain their REIT status. So a very important legislative win by Nareit. And then also the substantive requirements, things such as like the hedge and the debt have to be in the same taxpayer, which a lot of REITs today have very complicated ownership structures. And so the headline is REITs can definitely enter into derivative transactions to hedge their interest rate risk, but they have to do so in compliance with the special rules that apply to them and not to other taxpayers.